Maj, we use the term spiritual a lot. What is the difference between spirituality and religion?
In essence, there's no difference. But in our perception, there could be a difference. Because the common idea of religion for many people is ritual and superstition and sectarianism. Different kinds of doctrines that divide us from other people. That's a conception of religion, because there's so many religions that are battling and fighting and killing each other and hating each other and considering that they're the only way. So that's religion in people's perception. The original word, religio, comes from Latin, which means to bind us back to our own essence. And that's the same thing yoga means. There's really no difference in the original definition of religion and yoga. It means to reunite us with our essence. So the idea of spirituality is often interpreted as finding that essence. And religion is many of the external, superficial baggage that comes with spirituality. But actually, in truth, the religious traditions, the rituals, the teachings, the pujas, if we understand their true purpose, to center us in purifying our heart, to be an instrument of God's love and compassion, then all of these rituals we see, they're truly something beautiful if they're practiced properly according to the guidance of enlightened people.
You also spent a little bit of time with these Naga Babas, and they're quite fascinating, because I remember recently about 6 months ago, I spent some time with one of them in Benares, and I was quite fascinated by them. And I sat down and I asked him, how long have you been sitting here? And he says, I'm sitting here for 34 years. And he says, I just walk and take a bath and I come back. So I asked him, what are you doing? And he says, I'm meditating. So my question was, can you teach me how to meditate? And he gave me such a beautiful answer. He asked me, what's your favorite food? And I said, my favorite food is chocolate. And he asked me, have you ever tried to give it up? And I said, I've tried to give it up, but I've not got more than 10 days. And I've never thought of trying harder because I'm an ultramarathon runner, so I will burn it out. And he said, he says, a piece of chocolate's lying on the table. Okay. Your eyes have to see it, your hands have to pick it up and put it in your mouth. He says, if you can't control something that you can see, how is it that you can control something that you can't see? So he said, sometimes we have to give up something because it's good for the body. Sometimes you give up something because it's good for the mind. And that was such a beautiful lesson that stayed with me. Now, you've traveled throughout the length and breadth of India and you've met many rishis. Beyond your guru, Srila Prabhupada, who was it that actually inspired you the most?
I write in Journey Home, one person, his name was Ganasham Baba. He was the simplest man I ever met. He lived in a hallway outside of a little closet, small closet, in somebody else's home, where he had deities, mortis of Radha Krishna. Their names were Radha Gopijana Ballava. And he found them under the ground one day. He had left home looking for God, and when he was very young, now he had the responsibility. So he was doing it under a tree. And a family came and said, just put him in our closet, you could stay with us. And he was there for about almost 50 years when I met him. And he had nothing, but he was so humble. every day I would come to meet him at about 10 o'clock in the morning. And he always had 3 rotis, bread rotis, very thick. And he always would give them to me. And I would happily eat them. And one day when I was bathing in Yamuna, the river, this one sadhu, holy man, he chastised me. He said, because of you, Ganasham is starving. Because he never leaves that closet. He can't. Somebody brings him 3 rotis every day, and you eat them. So the next day I came, and he put the rotis in front of me and said, I'm not hungry. I said, I'm not hungry. I'm not going to eat these rotis. He said, you must eat these rotis. I said, I'm not going to eat these rotis. He said, why are you not eating these rotis? I said, because you're starving, because I'm eating all your rotis. Roti means bread. Yeah. And he said, no, I have so many rotis. I have unlimited rotis. You eat these rotis. And I said, show me your rotis. Where are they? And he said, they're over there. There was a little shelf. I went over to the shelf and there was nothing there. I said, Ganasham, you're starving because of me. And then Ganasham, with folded hands, began to cry. He said, is it that I'm so fallen that you will not accept my rotis? He said, my only treasure in life is serving others. That's my happiness. That's my nourishment. If you deprive me of that, then I have nothing. And then he said, please accept my rotis and give me a reason to live. So I ate all his rotis. But then I had to be creative. The next time I came was 2 hours later. I was thinking that he would have eaten his rotis. But as soon as I came, he was an old man. He was in his late 70s when I was coming. I was just 20 years old then. And when I came in, he jumped up and he said, Gopi Jana Vallabha has been waiting for his friend to eat his rotis. And I saw that for all those hours, the rotis were sitting on the altar. He came and gave them to me. So then what I would do is I would beg rotis, because I had no money either, from other places. And I'd come and I'd exchange rotis with him. But that's the way he was with everything. From the core of his being, his joy was serving others. Because he loved God. He loved Krishna so much. And he saw Krishna in the heart of everyone. And he was like that for anyone who came there. He loved to serve. And any inconvenience there was in serving, it was a joy for him. And I learned so much. He was the simplest person I ever met, but he simply loved Krishna. He simply loved God, and I was yearning and longing to have that type of simplicity.
Raj, in this capitalistic world where people are burdened by earning money and looking after, where do they start by learning to cultivate a love for God or Krishna or just be a little spiritual? How do they find that balance?
Interesting. A couple years ago, I was invited to Dubai, to this 7-star hotel. I don't remember the name.
Burj Khalifa.
That's it. And it was in the grand ballroom, where everything was gold and the most finest marbles. And it was all millionaires and billionaires at tables who came for the talk. And the ambassador of India introduced me. And the topic was simple living and high thinking. The Indian ambassador looked around and said, in this place, with these people, I'm very curious what the Swami is going to say. And I began my talk by saying that simplicity doesn't mean living in a little thatched hut. You can be simple in a thatched hut, middle class. You could be a millionaire, you could be a multi-billionaire. It means having a simple, loving, unselfish heart in whatever situation we're in. And that's what spiritual value is, that we're living with simplicity, compassion, not the complexities of the ego. We're well-wishers of others. And if we're a mother or a father, for an educator, for an industry, we have international business, for politicians, for scientists, for monks. Yes. The idea is to cultivate this, whatever my occupation, whatever my role in this society is, that I'm building upon the foundation of a desire to serve, a desire to truly be a well-wisher of others. There's a well-known story of Hanuman. When they were building the bridge across the Indian Ocean, Hanuman was carrying mountains. And as he was progressing, he was carrying gigantic rocks. And there was a little spider in front of him kicking single grains of sand. And Hanuman stopped, waiting for the spider to get out of his way. And Ramchandra, he spoke to Hanuman. He said, in my eyes, that spider is doing every bit as much as you are. You're serving according to your capacity. The spider is serving according to her capacity. It's not a question of the quantity, it's the question of the quality of our motivation, of our compassion. And everybody could do that. It's just a matter of having a sincere will. Just like this body, it has so many different organs and limbs. Each organ has a different color, a different shape, and a different function. A healthy body is when every organ appreciates what other organs are doing. It's not that the brain is thinking the little toe is useless compared to me. If the little toe, if something drops on it and it's injured, every single part of the body is sending healing energy to that little toe. The pancreas, the lungs, the kidneys, the brain, the heart, they have very different functions. One can't do what the other does. But in human society, we need to see the potential within everyone. Everyone is a child of the divine. Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Krishna tells every living being is part of me. And the Gita tells, what is the sign of an enlightened person? Vidyavanaya sampane brahmani kavihastini suni chaiva svabhake cha pandita samadarsh. The sign of an enlightened person is not how many verses they memorize. It's not how many pujas they do. It's not how many followers they have. It's that we see every living being with equal vision. We see that life is sacred.
In the current day and age, we're seeing a lot of social initiatives coming up, social justice initiatives talking about empowerment. And through these initiatives, a lot of people are talking about some form of abuse that they've faced, be it physical or mental abuse. And I get asked the question quite often, their inability to let go of that pain is anchoring them down and is becoming a blueprint for their life, And this was an injustice that they didn't ask for. It's really sad. How can we help them, or what is the way forward to help these people learn the art of letting go?
It's very difficult. The more we could really feel for these people and understand these people, the better we could communicate with them. And if we've been through these situations, which are so painful, it gives us a special power that we really can understand other people who've gone through it. And it puts us in a position where we have a unique opportunity to help others. The Alcoholics Anonymous organization, it's usually alcoholics who've given up the habit that are most empowered to help people give up alcohol, because they know what they're going through and they know what they have to do to come out of it. So similarly, if we fill the negativity that's there with positive energy, with positive grace, with the shelter of God's grace, with the company of people who are giving us that shelter, then we could be restored. And then when we are restored, we have a very unique, empowered opportunity to help others who we really can understand. We know where they're coming from. And with people who have been abused, it's so painful. And it's so difficult. But if we come in the association of people who really can give us positive energy and positive spiritual techniques by which we can come out of that, transcend that, then whatever the liability of the past pain was becomes a special gift that we have to help others. And the more we could learn that in giving, we find true happiness. In giving, we can connect to God's love. Through the difficulties we've had in our life, it gives us a special position by which we can give.
Do you get angry or disappointed?
So many times.
What do you do? Because I don't think anyone can picture you angry.
I try to... There's different types of anger. There's the anger of people who are obstacles to what we want to get. And there's anger to how people are inflicting injustices on others. So anger could be a very great stimulus for seva, for service. Hanuman was very angry. He wasn't just like this. He was picking up mountains. But that anger was an expression of his compassion for Sita and his love for Ram. So, to be angry with things and situations that are causing people harm and causing people to be more and more disconnected from their spiritual nature, then it activates us to be to know the need that we have to do something positive.
So Maharaj, you've traveled around the world and you've seen many religions and many faiths. And you've not just seen it, you've studied it, you've experienced it. I'm very interested in understanding what is the things that people could misinterpret in these faiths that causes people to inflict harm on others in the name of religion.
In the Bible, at one place, Jesus said to some people, "You understand the letter of the law, but you do not understand the spirit and power behind it." And in the Sanskrit scriptures, there's this concept, saragrahi, janardana. That those who are truly understanding the path of Dharma, they are seeking the essence. So there's teachings, but what is the spirit and power behind those teachings? And to understand that properly, we need to actually really be sincere. And also, there's the true saints who personify that true spirit. They're humble. Spirituality is to transform, and this is consistent in all true spiritual paths. It transforms arrogance into humility, greed into generosity, complacency into compassion, hate into love. Is that the result? Am I learning to love every living being as a part of God? The Bible says the first commandment is to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And what's the symptom of doing that? You love your neighbor as yourself. And everyone's our neighbor. The Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, this is the essential teaching. How to live with compassion toward all living beings.
Maharaj, the world is also currently reaching a state of crisis in terms of relationships. We're seeing divorce rates escalating. We're seeing even the quality of the relationship within a family is completely eroding. And I see it as a big problem, because if the values are getting eroded through these relationships, so where is it coming from, and how can we change this? How can anyone change it?
By changing our values. What is our purpose? What is the purpose of our relationship? In family, unless we unite on a higher principle of our Dharma, then we will inevitably find so much dispute due to our different personalities, our different egos, our different ideas, our different passions. Just the other day I was speaking at an event. It was a pre-marriage event. And I told the story about my own mother and father. When I was 8 years old, my mother told me that my mother and father were going to separate because they didn't love each other anymore. They couldn't get along with each other. She said, "Everyone loves your father, everyone loves me, but we don't love each other." I was a little child. When I heard that, it was as if the entire earth disappeared and I was falling just into an endless void. I started to cry. Children depend on the unity of their mother and father for stability of mind. So I just ran. I cried, and I ran out the door, and I ran out the house, and I hid. And she didn't know where I was. She was devastated. She had no idea I would react like that. But it was real. When my father came home, I saw him coming from work. He was driving his car, came in the house, went up to their bedroom, and I secretly went and put my ear to the door. And my mother told my father exactly what happened. There was complete silence. Then I heard them say, for the sake of our children, we're going to work our differences out. It wasn't easy for them. But after a few years, at that time, I can say, I never saw so much love between two human beings as between them. They were married with total faithfulness and dedication to each other for 58 years. That love was not based on romance. Probably at the beginning it was, to some extent, but that fades. Romance fades. What we have in common fades, because the more you live with the person, the more you realize how much we don't have in common. That's human nature.
It is.
But they stayed together as a matter of duty to a higher principle, Dharma. And because they made a sacrifice, they adjusted for the higher principle. And by doing that, actual, true love awakens between people. Love is not cheap. Love requires sacrifice. Love requires adjustment to give love and receive love. And it's very important for families to be united, because families are the very core of the values of society.
Marge, we use the word love a lot. We use the word love on average 27 times a day, because we use it to describe so many things. People describe, I love this food, I love this, I love this jacket, I love everything. That at the end of the day, people cannot even name 5 things that they use the word love to describe. Do you think we should be switching the word love with perhaps thank you? Do you think perhaps if there are more things to be grateful for and give thanks for, love will spring from that?
Everyone is looking for love. Things could give some degree of satisfaction, fleeting satisfaction to the mind and to the bodily senses. But things can never touch the heart. Only to love and be loved touches the heart. And the origin of that love, the reason for that need, is we are the eternal soul, nahanyate hanyamane sarire, beyond birth and death. And the nature of the soul is to feel God's love and to love God and to shine that love of God toward everyone. That's the nature of the soul. That's the origin of love. And when we forget that, when we're disconnected from that, we're trying to find that love in chocolate or in romantic relationships or in jewelry, whatever it may be. But when we reconnect through the association we keep, through our spiritual practice, through the values we have, when we're trying to reconnect with that origin of love, then all of these other aspects of our life have great meaning, have great purpose.
What is the one thing that you are most proud of in your journey, having overcome?
I can't really say that I've overcome anything. I just love to serve people like you, and that's the greatest gift that God has given me.
Thank you very much. No, Marge, your journey has been so inspirational. And when I think your godbrother Bhaktitirtha Swami asked you to write the book, I think he gave all of us one last gift, and that was he showed us your love and your compassion. You know, it's the world needs more like you, and I love you and thank you very much for being here. Thank you.